The Legend of Spring-Heeled Jack, a 19th century mystery. A long, long time ago, in the foggy streets of London during the 1800s, a strange and spooky legend began to spread. People whispered about a mysterious figure who appeared out of nowhere, startling everyone with his glowing red eyes, sharp claws, and most astonishing of all, his ability to leap over walls and rooftops as though he had springs in his shoes. They called him Spring-Heeled Jack, and his story has puzzled people ever since. Who or what was he? A clever trickster? A ghost? Or something even scarier? This is the story of how Spring-Heeled Jack became one of the greatest mysteries in history. It all began on cold, misty evenings when the street lamps flickered and shadows danced on the cobblestones. London was a noisy, bustling city during the day, but at night, it grew quiet and eerie. People walking home late at night started to report encounters with a shadowy figure who seemed to leap out of thin air. Some said he wore a long black cloak and a tight-fitting suit that made him look like an acrobat or a circus performer. Others swore he had glowing red eyes that could pierce through the darkness. And then there were those who claimed his hands ended in sharp, metallic claws. But what frightened people the most was how he moved. Spring-heeled. Jack didn't walk or run like a normal person. He leapt. Witnesses said he could jump over fences, walls, and even rooftops with ease, disappearing into the night before anyone could catch him. One of the first people to encounter Spring-Heeled Jack was a young woman named Mary Stevens. Mary worked as a servant and often had to walk through the quiet streets alone to get home. One evening, as Mary was making her way back to her employer's house, something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, a dark figure jumped in front of her. He was tall and thin, with glowing red eyes that seemed to burn like coals. Before Mary could scream, the figure grabbed her arm with his icy claw-like fingers. "Help!" Mary cried, struggling to get away. But the figure didn't say a word. Instead, he let out a chilling laugh and leaned closer as if to scare her even more. Just as Mary thought she was in terrible danger, the sound of footsteps came from around the corner. Startled, the figure released Mary and, with an enormous leap, sprang high into the air. Mary watched in shock as he disappeared over a tall wall as if he had wings. By the time help arrived, Spring-Heeled Jack was gone. But Mary's story spread quickly through the neighborhood, and people began to talk. Not long after Mary's frightening encounter, another strange event occurred. A coach driver was traveling down a lonely road late at night when his horses suddenly reared up in fear. The driver pulled hard on the reins to calm the animals, but then he saw what had startled them. A shadowy figure stood in the middle of the road, blocking the way. The driver could see the figure's glowing red eyes in his tight, shiny suit. Before the driver could react, the figure leapt high into the air and landed on top of the coach. The horses whinnied and stamped in terror, but the figure didn't seem to care. He laughed, a sound so eerie it sent shivers down the driver's spine. And then he leapt again, disappearing into the night. The driver told everyone he knew about the encounter, and it wasn't long before the newspapers picked up the story. The mysterious figure was given a name: Spring-Heeled Jack. The most famous encounter with Spring-Heeled Jack happened to a young woman named Jane Alsop. Jane lived with her family in a small house on the outskirts of London. One chilly February evening, there was a loud knock at the door. When Jane opened it, she saw a man standing outside in the darkness. He wore a long cloak and said in a hurried voice, "Quick, I'm a police officer. We've caught Spring-Heeled Jack nearby, and I need a lantern to help us capture him." Thinking she was helping the police, Jane grabbed her lantern and stepped outside. But as soon as she handed it to the man, something terrible happened. The man threw off his cloak, revealing a tight-fitting suit underneath. His eyes glowed bright red, and he opened his mouth to breathe out a stream of blue flames. Jane screamed and tried to run back inside, but the man grabbed her with his sharp claws. "Help!" she cried, struggling to break free. Her family heard her screams and rushed to her rescue. As soon as they appeared, the strange figure released Jane, let out a terrifying laugh, and leapt high into the air, disappearing over the rooftops. After the attack on Jane Alsop, the city of London went into a frenzy. People were terrified to leave their homes at night, and children were told to stay indoors after dark. The newspapers were full of stories about Spring-Heeled Jack, and the city's mayor even spoke about him at a public meeting. He admitted that many people had reported seeing the mysterious figure, but no one knew who or what he was. Was he a clever trickster? A supernatural being? Or something else entirely? Over time, People came up with all sorts of theories about Spring-Heeled Jack. Some believed he was a wealthy nobleman playing pranks on ordinary people. They thought he might have invented special boots with springs that allowed him to jump so high. Others were convinced he was something supernatural, like a ghost or a demon. His glowing eyes and fire-breathing abilities certainly made him seem otherworldly. And then there were those who thought he might be an alien from another world, visiting Earth and using his advanced technology to frighten people. But no matter how hard the police tried to catch him, Spring-Heeled Jack always managed to escape. He seemed to appear when people least expected him and vanish just as quickly. As the years went by, sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack became less frequent. Some people believed he had finally been caught, but that the truth was kept secret. Others thought he had simply moved to another city or another country to continue his tricks. But even though he disappeared, the legend of Spring-Heeled Jack lived on. People in London still tell stories about the strange figure who could leap higher than anyone else and disappear into the night. So who do you think Spring-Heeled Jack was? Was he just a man with a clever invention, or was he something supernatural, like a ghost or a demon? Maybe he was something else entirely, a mystery that will never be solved. The next time you hear a strange noise outside your window, or see a shadow darting across the rooftops, remember the story of Spring-Heeled Jack. Maybe, just maybe, he's still out there, waiting for his next leap into the night.